if I were to redo 10 things in my business, if I were to redo my business all over again, what are 10 things that I would redo? The first thing that I would do if I were to reopen my production company, I would not buy any gear. And I know that there's a lot of people out there like, oh, what? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of production companies out there that don't have gear. Coming from a director of photography standpoint, maybe you can get away with just getting a little something to practice with and just to kind of get into the learning curve of how the gear works and for you to basically create your skills. New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta. For the most part, unless you're not in those areas, it's not an asset that you can pay off quick enough. The second thing that I would change if I were to go back and do this all over again is open up credit accounts sooner. This isn't financial advice. I'm not telling you how to do this. In fact, talk to a financial advisor, talk to somebody, but I'm basically telling you how I did it and how I was advised by my folks, and maybe this will give you an idea, but I'm not saying pull trigger with what advice I'm giving you right now. So I card stacked in the beginning. So basically, the only way that you're going to get business credit or get new lines of credit like that off the cuff is if you have a 680 credit score and above. So at least at the time, my credit score was, I think, like 740, 750. It was somewhere around that area, right? So what I did was I tapped off of my credit first, personally, and then what that did was it opened up credit accounts through the business once I had the LLC open. So you can do this with a brand new LLC as well. And specifically too, when you start the card stack and you start to open up all these lines of credits, there's a specific order on which banks you need to approach first. Chase being the number one, and then I forget all the other ones afterwards. I just remember you start with Chase and then you trickle your way down so that way you can get the most out of everything. The amount of money that we got off the cuff, I believe, was roughly $25,000 of credit. And that actually could have been more if it wasn't a specified LLC. In this case, we have a motion picture LLC in New Jersey, but I think you actually could get a lot more if it was a general LLC. But we didn't want a general LLC because there's a lot of perks to having a motion picture company in New Jersey. Moving on to number three. Number three is I would actually invest specifically the credit that I would open up with marketing, specifically Facebook marketing. I was able to target the clients that I'm looking for a lot quicker using Facebook. Granted, there's a word of mouth element, but I was able to actually go to the client or my ads and my videos. Once I created a couple spec ads with my friends and stuff, I was actually able to market those directly to companies, or I was able to market the school directly to those folks using Facebook ads. And that was a great way for us to target things. Now that you're not spending any of your own money and the credit that you're actually using now is going towards the marketing element and you're now landing clients successfully, granted, if that's the case, the clients are now paying off, one, the gear that you wanted, right? Because now you're renting out the gear, it's renting out all the manpower, you're keeping every penny, and then the marketing is also paying for itself because you now just had a client that just paid it off, right? So I'm spending very minimal now just for the sake of me starting this all over again, right? With the money that I'm now making, what would I do with it? I would actually put it towards investments outside of the production company, mainly because I just like diversity. I just like diverse investments. I have stock accounts. I'm currently trying to get into real estate, but essentially what I do is I would actually invest into other areas outside of the industry, but I would only do that until you start making, I want to say, roughly 6 figures with your stream of income. So don't start making other businesses until you at least are making 6 figures with your first. So number 5, I would actually collaborate with influencers sooner. Now, I use the word collaborate because I'm not charging them. I would just be like, hey, I want to collaborate with you. Here's our work. Let's shoot something that you would like to be a part of. Let me know what you'd like to do, and let's just collaborate, right? And you wouldn't believe how well that worked, especially if you have skill as a videographer and as a filmmaker. We did that with Sally Slices. We've done that with a couple other filmmakers and a couple other influencers. And it worked out beautifully. It actually landed us a bunch of clients because, mind you, those influencers now have a network of so many people that the ones who actually take it seriously are now reaching out to you. So now that's just free marketing right there. And specifically speaking, instead of you reaching out to somebody and paying for a shout out, you're now just collaborating with them, which now it's mutual. So instead of them spending money on you and you're spending money on them, it's just mutual now. And I would absolutely recommend that for a lot of people just to go into. Number 6, I would actually leverage my own network when starting this business over again. I would reach out to all of my old clients or all my old friends and colleagues within the industry. Granted, it was the pandemic, but I would actually leverage my network and start reaching out to everybody and saying like, hey, can you help me out with this, that, and the third? And see if I can leverage people for clients. What you can do before the end of the phone call or before the end of the text is you can ask, hey, especially if it's a phone call too, can you reference me to somebody that you think would need my services? And 9 times out of 10, they would say yes. So that's something that I wish I did a lot sooner, and it did absolutely wonderful for the business too. For those folks out there who have day jobs right now, I would absolutely consider working places where, millionaires and, folks of the 1%, to say the least, are congregating. Mainly because compared to my very first, I guess you can kind of say, day job or dead-end job, I was a busser at an Olive Garden, right, for about 6 months, versus my business partner worked at a country club. And guess who got more clients for our business in the long run? And that was obviously my business partner who worked at a country club, right? So it did make a difference, and the jobs weren't so different from each other. It was just the location that she had chosen, so it made a big difference within our career. One thing that I would do next is I wouldn't open up an office if I were to go into this whole production company route. In fact, I know a guy who's making about $2 million a year as a commercial filmmaker, and he does everything out of his house, essentially. I'm not saying he does his shoots out of his house, but he operates business out of his home. And there are tax benefits to that too, if I'm not mistaken, which again, talk to a CPA about that. So regardless of anything, if I didn't own a film school, I wouldn't own gear, and I especially wouldn't open up an office. It's nice to show people and all that stuff, and it's great, but at the same time though, it's just not worth it unless you have like shoots going on, you have a studio, a full-fledged studio. Just having an office isn't worth it, in my opinion. I would avoid cold calling clients, right? So cold calling can work. It works better if you DM people, so people can see your work. Just make sure that you have something lined up before you start reaching out to people. Don't just start reaching out to folks and you have little to no experience, or you don't have any videos to show anybody, or no visual references whatsoever, because it's going to be so hard for anybody to take you. I'm not going to say no one's going to take you, but it's just going to be very, very difficult for people to take you. I would DM about 10 people a day, where more often than not, one person's going to get back to you. And basically what's going to happen is if that one person gets back to you and they say yes for the collaboration or yes for a meeting, then great, cool. If not, if they say, no, I'm not interested, just do that same thing that I did before with leveraging the network. It's just, hey, is there someone that you can reference me to? And like I said, 9 times out of 10, that's gonna work. Avoid taking low-paying jobs. If you think that you need every single job in order for you to start with, you are dead wrong. Because when you start saying yes to cheap jobs, you get cheap references, you get cheap people that you work for. If someone's lowballing your day rate, let's just say your day rate is $750 a day, and someone's saying, no, I can only pay $250, and you agree to that just to pay the bills and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not telling you to sacrifice your bills or whatever, but if you're doing this early enough, if you guys are young and you guys are still living with your parents or whatever the case may be, if you can avoid saying yes to cheap people, do so. It's gonna be worth it. It's not worth the money, and it's sure as hell not worth the references. So I would just avoid that altogether. Just don't say yes to cheap people. I know you guys are looking for something out there, but you can create your own specs and create your own shorts on your own time, and then use those to leverage your network when you go to reach out to people in the future. But if cheap people are asking you to say, hey, look, I need you to do X, Y, Z for a smaller amount because I'm not paying that amount, that's absolute garbage, and you shouldn't be working with those people, even if it's a big name corporation. Because there have been times that, and I'm not mentioning which corporations, but there were massive corporations that were saying, no, we only have it in the budget for you guys to basically work and do this whole commercial for us for basically pennies. And it wasn't good. It was actually a nightmare. And mind you, they were making millions off that commercial. So you can renegotiate. If they don't want to renegotiate, then don't take them. It's not worth doing a cheap job because you're only going to get cheap references. And even then, those big name clients that are still paying you pennies essentially, it's not worth even taking their bit for it because they're not referencing you to anybody. So we're down to my last one. What would be number 10? This is the biggest one in my opinion. I wish I found my business partner sooner, because not only is she now one of my best friends, but it would be impossible for me to do this journey by myself, because in times where I wasn't doing so well, she would pick up the slack. In other areas where I wasn't comprehending certain areas of the business, she would be like, oh, that's simple for me, or she would do it, right? And then likewise on her end too. She truly is my sister in that sense, and if I were to go back and do it all over again, I would find Jessie Shea a lot sooner. So let's just go over what I talked about before. I would not buy gear. I would open up a credit account or multiple credit accounts sooner and put it towards good assets. I wouldn't put it towards gear. I would put it towards areas like marketing or hell, even outside of the business, but that's only once you start making six figures. I would also collaborate with influencers a lot sooner. I would also leverage my network to see if there's any clients or any people that could reference me to someone who might need my services. I wouldn't open up an office. Avoid cold calling clients. Avoid taking low-paying jobs because they're just not good for your time and they're just not good references either. In fact, they're quite a headache considering that they're also very nitpicky too. I would look for a business partner at the very least. If you think you can do it by yourself, good. If you're looking for a business partner, pick someone that you're friends with. People say don't work with friends, but you have to work with a friend that has a good work ethic. It's not don't work with friends. It's choose the right friend to work with. Because if your best friend is late to work every day and treats people like garbage or this, that, and the third, I wouldn't go into business with that person. That's essentially it. That's what I would do if I were to redo my business all over again. And those are those 10 things that I would do. So be smart, just make sure that you're surrounding yourself with good people, putting yourself in the right place at the right time, and make sure that you're prepared. Because by the end of the day, what really makes sense is the fact that you need to have a portfolio put together, at least in the beginning, so that way you can market to other people. That's something that we did very, very early in the business, and it worked out so well in our favor. But anyways, thank you all very much, and I'll catch you guys later. Take it easy.